Hello dreamers, Eugene the author here, and I'm excited to share with you my young adult high fantasy novel, Nora and the Eternal Waterwheel. This novel is dedicated to the dreamers, to the warriors, to the schemers. This novel is dedicated to everyone who feels lost, and to everyone who has made them found. Prelude to Dreaming. Hezria blinked his eyes rapidly, struggling to make sense of the booming, deafening explosions, the searing heat, and the blinding crimson lights all around him. He was aware his body was moving, but as it was not of his own volition, his internal sense of inertia fled him, leaving the holy knight nauseated and dazed. His body hit the ground swifter than he felt it ought to, resulting in staggering bewilderment. He became airborne again, bouncing several more times before skidding to a halt, his golden armor leaving a stream of sparks in its wake. Rolling laboriously to his hands and knees, the knight tasted iron and spat crimson on the cracked marble floor below. As he lifted his arms, aware of throbbing, stabbing pains all about his back and shoulders, he thrust his helmet off and winced at the loud clattering it made on impact. Before him swirled the darkness that came from the unknowable realm far beyond the veil. Wiping away sweat and crimson, the knight cast his gaze about wildly for his sword. "Hezria!" called a woman, and a moment later his blade sang through the air towards him. The woman, Daphnel, turned, brandishing her war axe, and cleaved through a skeletal warrior as Hezria caught the divine greatsword one-handed. His head jerked as he saw flames spew forth towards his face. Luckily the flames diverted, and he knew that nearby Avera had erected a barrier to protect his person. "You have my thanks, healer," Hezria called to the woman as he spun around the flames to rush towards the darkness. As he did so, he rushed past the prone form of an old man staring in lamentation at the destruction all around him. The man stared down at his palms, then up at the raging battle before him. He swallowed slowly and staggered to his feet as he held his hand out to one side. His eyes took on an eerie silver glow, and in the next moment his staff manifested in his hand. "Hezria, you have my oak at your command," the old man proclaimed, moving with a speed and agility that seemed to defy his wizened nature. "Then help me assault the big one, Verilor. We must set right what has been done," Hezria called over his shoulder, pressing to one side and swinging his mighty blade. The large sword sundered 4 foes at once, sending charred skeletons and howling beasts flying in all directions. The old man, Verilor, nodded and rushed after the knight. The creature from the darkness literally defied categorization. At times it was a massive swirl of sludge and acrid muck. At others a 4-legged beast with many heads. At times it flew about as a skinless bird of prey, and at others it took a noxious, gaseous form. At every twist, turn, and manifestation, the knight, the barbarian, the healer, and the magus fought. Outside in the courtyard, the companion, a rogue by the name of Henri, stridently worked to usher all nearby villages to safety. No small task. He was aided by local militias and warriors, all doing their part to protect the citizenry from the growing number of vile creatures from the realm beyond all knowing. Back in the castle, the contingency of light continued to battle valiantly, though not without cost. "Daphnel, you're wounded!" cried Avera, rushing towards her companion, letting loose streams of healing light. "I'll live. Stay the path, Avera. Hezria needs your cover more than I your salve," Daphnel yelled back, shifting her axe from her wounded right arm to her left, thankful that she was in fact powerfully ambidextrous. While wielding the hefty weapon one-handed decreased the force of each blow, Daphnel struck with might and fought on, making a grand accounting for herself. She and the others had all vowed to the realms to stop the advancing darkness here and now, but she also had another promise to uphold. As such, she never stopped fighting, no matter how great her pain or how large the numbers of demons before her. With that promise burning at the forefront in her mind, Avera dropped back and forged another barrier around Hezria, hoping such an oath would not need to be fulfilled that day. Up ahead, Hezria was staggered to one knee by a massive tendril, not unlike a club hammering down upon him. Even with Avera's supernatural barrier, the knight felt bone-jarring pain lancing throughout his body. The wizard at his side spun the oak staff, and thrusting forth, Verilor called a tempest to rain lightning upon the increasingly more gargantuan stature of their foe. The darkness seemed to regard the wizard with amusement, and copious, small, featureless faces grinned and leered in his direction. In the next instant, the wizard was hurled back by the beast's tendril, and all assembled held their breath as Hezria was set upon once more. Avera yelped, swayed, and fell as her barrier was shattered. Following this impact came another. Hezria was beaten down onto his back by the darkness. The knight felt his consciousness dimming, his will fading as he realized just what the darkness had in store for him. "Hezria! Avera!" roared the barbarian as she rushed toward them, her axe becoming a whirling tornado of annihilation. Monsters and undead warriors were brought low as she ran towards the holy knight. However, "Daphne, hold! Hold!" the knight rasped, his skin already turning pale, with dark veins protruding as he raised a staying hand. "But Hezria, remember your promise! And you, old man, to your appointed task. It was well known such a dour end may come to pass, and so let the torch be passed, and the journey's inverted. You must walk my path, and I must walk yours." The wizard's eyes widened as he watched the darkness pouring over Hezria, diving deep down inside his being. Wicked magic, powerful magic, had been worked that day, and the darkness sought a vessel, as was its nature. This vile vessel was not meant to be a living being. However, dark rituals never go as planned. Verilor stared in horror as Hezria rose unnaturally and twisted around in mid-air. The brave knight's grin turned sour and was frightening to behold. "Little man!" droned many voices from Hezria's vocal, none of which belonged to the knight himself. "Weak man! Look how your dark arts have aged you, sorcerer! Look what all have lost for your ambition! Now! The harvest grows! Our power shall we have? Our reckoning shall we have? Little man, weak man, run, little dear, run! While the hunter is still reloading, run! Verilor made to raise his staff to finish the duel, but Daphne's strong hand on his shoulder stopped him. The unconscious body of Avera was slung over one of her shoulders. The barbarian had always been such a stentorian figure, but now her face was streaked with tears. "Come along, sorcerer, or is it Magus now? Hezria has paid the price for your sins. There is a promise that must be kept. You and I and Avera and Henri swore an oath to Hezria. Now is the time to make good on that promise. I will take you to Nora. Send the girl away and rejoin us after. There is much work ahead." In the distance, the darkness surrounding Hezria coalesced, and all at once the knight's body disappeared. The darkness had form now, tall, burning form. But it would still take a good deal of time for it to draw power from the realm of unknowing to exist in the corporeal world. As Verilor felt himself being dragged away from the ruins of his castle, only one question escaped from his lips. "Dear God, what have I done?"